Mice and Men. He tours the world with bands you've heard of before. Korn, Soundgarden, even Marilyn Manson. And Austin was very angry at God. And God turned him around. So we're going to find out why that happened and what happened. So here's a quick little video about Austin, and then we'll talk together. Look at the screen.
When I was about 19 is when music really came into my life. And when music came into my life, I saw it as my new God. I started my band of Mice and Men, had tryouts, found the band, wrote a record, went on tour right away. I could yell into a mic and get all of that rage and that hate out. Some of my lyrics talk about bullying, they talk about depression, they talk about suicide, divorce, losing loved ones. When you're on the road and you're touring a lot, drinking is very easy. I drank all the time, I smoked marijuana all the time because it helped the pain. I thought of what I was dealing with mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
I need your love like a boy needs his mother's son. Yeah.
Hey, let's welcome Austin Carlile. Austin? We just met before the service, and what an amazing story you have. I kind of want to pick up on that lyric that you were just singing there, and where you sang, I need your love like a boy needs his mother's side, right? And so that was a big moment in your life, a horrible moment, a painful moment that I'm sure affects you to this very day still. And that was the day that your mother passed into eternity, and you were very close to her. She was a very nurturing mom. She wrote you notes and told you how much she loved you all the time. And so with your mom and dad, you're raised in a Christian home, and your dad was more the disciplinarian, your mom was more nurturing. And you even said when you were speaking not long ago that you were more of a fan of your mom than your dad, right? So here you are raised in a Christian home, and you have a call from your grandmother to go down to the hospital. Kind of take us to that moment.
Yeah, my grandmother called me. I was working at a barbecue restaurant at the time, and she told me that my mother had passed out. And I went to the hospital where she was, and I got there at the same time as the ambulance. And they were pulling my mother out of the back of the ambulance. And that ended up being the last time that I saw my mother. They came into the room a couple hours later, and they told me that she had passed away. And my grandmother was with me, and she took a left to go see the body, and I took a right, and I ran out of the front door of the hospital, and I threw my hands in the air, and I cursed God for the very first time in my life, in 17 years.
Wow, so this event just rocked your world. You were obviously angry at God. Now you found out, you thought your mother died of a heart attack, but as it turns out, is it Marfan syndrome? So tell us what that is and what happened.
Yes, sir. She had something called Marfan syndrome, and we weren't aware that she had it. It's a genetic tissue disorder. It's a connective tissue disorder that's genetic, and it was passed down to me. They thought she had a heart attack, but she had an aortic aneurysm, and her heart ruptured. And they because of it's genetically passed down, they assumed that I had it at that time. And I used to play baseball, and I had to stop playing ball to go into college, and I found out that I had the mutant gene, and I was positive for Marfan syndrome, which there's no cure, and that's why I'm so long and lanky and skinny, and from eye problems to heart problems to back problems to hip, rib, feet, neck, pretty much the entire body.
So you cursed God. Why did you curse God, Austin? Why were you? So you just felt like God abandoned you, God failed you. What brought you to that point?
I cursed God because I served God.
Right.
in the beginning, growing up, I was raised in a Christian home. My mom and dad were youth leaders and music leaders, and we lived at an orphanage for 2 years just to love on the kids. And that was my parents' hearts, and my mom's especially. And she was the only person that I had. She was a single mother at the time. My parents had been divorced for a few years. And she was all I had. And she was the reflection of Jesus. And I was so impacted by her and her life and what she did for us. And so I cursed God because I couldn't understand how he would take this woman that served him and loved him and reflected him away from her boy and left me with nothing, giving me this disease on top of it.
So you found an outlet through music, and at 19, now you're getting into music, and ultimately you start a band called Of Mice and Men. And you said that music became your new God. So what does that mean?
Became my new God. I poured everything into it. All of my time, my energy, my effort, my heart, my finances. I wanted to live, and I wanted God to hate me as much as I hated him. And I wanted all that anger and rage. And I found music as my new God because I could pour all of that anger and rage into it. Before I was into violence and running with a crowd that I shouldn't have ran with. And music was an outlet for me so that I wouldn't pass away like some of my friends or go to prison because of the lifestyle that I was living. And so God, or music, then, in my words, saved my life.
Yeah. So your band had a lot of success. You were out touring with all kinds of bands. Who are some of the bands you toured with?
Avenged Sevenfold, Korn, Linkin Park, Slipknot, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
We did festivals with Imagine Dragons, the 1975, Kanye West, many bands like that.
So you knew Chester Bennington. He was someone that you, I think you recorded a song with him or did something together, didn't you?
We played a song together live for our world tour that we do with them.
So we read of people, these horrible suicides of like Chester Bennington and others who are at the pinnacle of success. And it's sort of hard for us to understand. I mean, there's some young people right now and maybe they're into music and that would be their dream, to be in a rock band, right? And to have all that success and adoring crowds and thousands of people chanting their name. I watched this special on Netflix about Avicii, the electronic dance music DJ, and he had this amazing success, but ultimately he became a raging alcoholic. He was destroying his body, and then at the end of this special, which was really about his life, they just, the black screen came up and said he committed suicide. What happens? I mean, what is it like to be at the top and then be so despondent? You would say, I want to take my life.
I've been there. As we just talked an hour ago in your green room, I attempted suicide. I thought that I had nothing. And then when I was in the world and gaining that success from the band, I still had that hole in my heart. And I still had, to this day, I see it now as a cross-shaped hole. And I didn't know what I was seeking, and I kept trying to fill it with all these other things. And the more success the band would gain, and the more parties, and getting to go to these different places and hang with these cool people, and I kept finding my identity in the band and in my success. And, the world and Satan offer on one hand this lie. They say, finances will make you happy, or this new car, or these social media things, or these parties, or this, this outfit. And that's a lie. All of that stuff is so temporary and superficial, and that's the stuff they pump. And I want to do the same thing. When you get to that level and you have all these things that the world says will make you successful, will make you happy, and people are still so empty. And I see now that it's because they don't have Christ. But to them, they're constantly searching for new things and constantly searching for things to feel that in their lives so that they can either feel nothing or feel something. And that's impossible without Christ. And that's what I had to learn the hard way, is I knew I needed Christ. I knew that was who I needed to turn to, but yet I filled my life with all these other things just because I didn't want anything to do with him. And the moment when I finally gave my life to God and started following God was because I saw that no matter what success the band built, no matter what I did, this was after a world tour with Linkin Park, and I was still so empty, and I knew that I had to get my foot out of the world and into Christ, because I was just going to keep doing the same things over and over and over.
So you were on the road, your bus was known as the party bus, you know, and you're drinking a lot, and you're smoking a lot of weed and all that. And you said that you felt empty, hurt, and lost. And so your dad, your mom has already gone on to heaven, but your dad, who you probably don't have the closest relationship with at that point, because he's sort of a representative of God to you in a way, you call your dad, and what did you say to your dad, and what did he say to you?
I asked my dad, what am I doing? Like he could answer it for me. I asked him, what is the purpose of this? What is the meaning of this? I was expressing how hurt and how lost I was and I felt, and I never liked to talk to my dad because, like you said, he was that representative of God. And I was so angry with him when I was a kid. Now as an adult, we've become so close. And especially now as a believer, him and I have just solidified that because I respect how he disciplined me. And I admire and I'm grateful that he washed my mouth. I was so instinct and told me no. It's a big part of why I'm the man that I am today. Yeah. He's watching in Costa Rica, where he lives.
What's your dad's name?
Perry.
Okay. Hey, Dad.
But I called my dad because he was a pastor, and you know, he doesn't have his life all together, but us as Christians, we don't really have our lives together anyways, but thanks to God, we have something, we have everything through him. But I called him because I knew the answer to I knew the answers to my own questions already, and his response, all of that was simply, where's God in your life? And that struck my spirit and struck me because I knew God was there. He's everywhere. Yeah. But when he said, where is God in your life? He meant, where are you? Where are you bringing God into your life? Where are you walking with him? Are you talking to him? Are you leaning on him? Are you still running from him? Yeah. And I was battling it tooth and nail to run the other way. And you can't spend all that time resisting someone that you can't resist. And I spent all of my resistance on someone that I can't resist.
So what happened then, Austin?
I went back down into the bus and partied. But the next few months and turned into a year, my spirit kept hearing that, where's God in your life? Where's God in your life? Yeah. And that's what prompted me, because I knew that God was right there. God just wanted me to come to him exactly how I was, with exactly what I was going through, with all of that pain, that hurt, all those things in my heart that I didn't want to give to him. God already knew my heart, and he loves us. And he loves us so much that he gives us a choice to love us. He doesn't just say, you love me. Yeah. That's not true love. The choice, he gives us that choice. And he was talking to my heart to get me to make that choice. And it took a year or two. I tried to get my life together, tried to become sober, and it wasn't working. I was just spinning my wheels. And one day we were in the studio, recording the same studio as Whitney Houston, where she did. And we were in New Jersey, and our apartment was overlooking a graveyard. And I don't know if you've ever been to New Jersey, but you don't have to add a graveyard to have an apartment overlooking something for it to be dreary and sad, or it's not where you want to be. The people in Jersey are great, and the sandwiches. But I was coming off of opioids, and I had stopped smoking marijuana, and I couldn't get there. I was trying on my own. I said, I got to get my life all together before I can come back to Jesus. I had to get everything together. He's not going to want me like this. I know how, I'm supposed to be. And it didn't work. And I was writing lyrics for a song, and I literally put down the pen overlooking that cemetery. And I said, okay, God, I'm done. No more me. No more trying. No more of me. No more anything that has to do with anything of my own strength, my own knowledge, which isn't that much. I need you. And I said, I need you. I crave you. I desire you. I have to have you because I can't do anything without you. And I said, I give up. And I gave my life to him. And when I prayed that, I told him, use my hands, use my feet, use my talent, use whatever gifts you've given me, and you take the wheel. And you go. Because I have no idea what I'm doing. And he took the wheel. 3 months after that, he actually took me out of the band. And that started this whole journey to where I am now. But because of my Marfan syndrome, I had I won't list them all, but hip surgery, rib surgery, heart surgery, foot surgery, ear surgery, countless back procedures. Who in here has had an epidural? Any moms? I've had about 20 of those. I've had about 40 sets of trigger point injections. And while on our last tour that we ever did, I was singing. And every time I would sing, I was in more pain than usual. And to the point of where I was throwing up and having to be in a ball on stage singing into the mic because I was having so much pain in the back of my head and in my back. And we had to cancel the tour, and I found out when I flew to Stanford, I flew from London to San Jose, and they found out that I was having cerebrospinal fluid leaks, CSF leaks, and the sac that surrounds my spine, which is full of all the fluid, had tears in it, and every time I would sing, my spinal fluid was pushing out through my back, and it was toxic to my body, and it was making me sick, and I had toured for about a month like that, and that was the final straw. My doctors said, as soon as I got there in October 2016, they said, you can't do this anymore, Austin. And they had been telling me that for 4 or 5 years, but I kept pushing on because music was all that I had. Music saved my life, and I had to do it, even if it kills me. And it got to that point where it could have, if I followed.
Wow. You know, you mentioned Whitney Houston. It's interesting in that studio because, you know, she had huge success, but she died effectively of a drug overdose. And I read an interesting article about a lady, a psychologist that wrote a book. And she mentioned Whitney Houston and she mentioned Michael Jackson. She said, people think drugs killed them. She said, drugs didn't kill them. The problem was they were always trying to hit the high note. And the idea was they were searching for something, maybe something they felt at moments, maybe something like you felt in performances before thousands of people. And they were trying to maintain that high. And drugs was a way to artificially maybe replicate it, but they weren't able to do it. And ultimately that became their demise. But, you know, so you think of the course Whitney's life took. And we think of the course your life took in that same studio where you both were recording. And now here you are today. And, you know, you're a Christian, but you're not living a pain-free life. You're still battling Marfan syndrome. And you're telling me an amazing story that you're engaged. And tell me where you met your bride-to-be.
I stepped into a dream and met my fiance, I think, but I met my fiance in the hospital at Stanford University. I was speaking in San Diego at a church, and I had to cancel my flight to Costa Rica the very next day so that I could fly to Stanford because I was having an allergic reaction and I had fluid in my ribs and my eye was looking like this, and my doctor flew me to Stanford. And on the Monday following, 2 days after that, I met my mommy, and she was a patient at Stanford for about 3 years, and I'd been there for 7, and we had never met. And we met in the hospital because she has a brain tumor. And praise God that the cancer's not there anymore, and that's something that we bonded on when we first met, because of our health. And we saw that we met someone that finally understands. But we bonded more when I prayed with her, and I prayed for her tumor. And when I prayed for her tumor, I prayed for God's will over her tumor. I didn't demand healing. She wasn't healed, so I had to pray 100 more times. I prayed for God's will. And she called me back, and how much that impacted her, because she said, everyone demands healing. God can do anything he wants. And she said, God left this tumor in my head for a reason. And God can do whatever he wants with anything of my life. And she recognizes that as something that God is using. And for the past 3 years, and raising our little girl and being a single mom with this issue, it's turned her into a warrior. And there's no way that either one of us would have been prepared for each other unless it was for what God was doing in our lives and leading in our lives medically. And just like Esther, for such a time as this, you have no idea the things that God is bringing you through and building through you and doing to you, even as painful as they may be, because he uses every single thing for his glory. His glory. I can't believe I'm saying this on stage with Greg Glory, but I hated the verse, delight in the ways of the Lord, and I will give you the desires of your heart. For 2.5 years, I'm delighting in you, God. I'm delighting in your ways. I love, and not getting the desires. I need my 69 Impala and maybe a house, and not getting my desires. And then she walks into my life. And I see now that my desires are what God's desires are, because it's God's heart, and it's him through me. And my desire, and something that he needed me to have so that I can do what I'm called to do, is a person that I can confide in, lead on, a best friend, and a woman that is going to be my rib and my rock. And she can be with me, and I can pour into her as she pours into me. And
beautiful. What would you say? I mean, your story is so powerful. Now, even after, as a Christian, you're suffering, you're honoring God through your suffering. The Lord has brought you and your fiancé together. But think about a young person right now listening to you, and that you live the life they dream of, the rock star life, success, fame, all that goes with it. And what would you say? And maybe you're someone's looking at you thinking, I wish I had their life. And then there's somebody else saying, I'm addicted right now to drugs, and I can't get off drugs, and I've tried, or I'm addicted to alcohol, and I don't see a way out for me. And there's even someone listening right now that's contemplated suicide, maybe even someone who's attempted suicide like you did. What would you say to that person, to someone that's come through this? What are your words to them right now?
God is right there. I asked my dad, where is God in my life? And he was right there. And all I had to do was reach out. And so much of the world, they put all of these ideas out about how to make your life better and how to get over the addiction and how to get over the depression and how to live your best life. But it always is about, your heart, and you can empower yourself, and you can do this, and you got to be the best version of yourself. And they're all wrong, because it's not you. All have fallen short of the glory of God. All are going to fail and fall short. It's God, and it's leaning and relying on him and trusting him and having a relationship, a living, breathing relationship with your Creator that is going to get you through what you need in life. You're not going to come to Jesus and become wealthy all of a sudden, or hyper grace, or anything that some of the world likes to say. Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. And he never says it's going to be easy, but it's a lot easier to overcome depression, addiction, any of these things that we deal with when you have Jesus with you.
That's right. Why don't we stand up now for the rest of this, because we're going to bring up one other person to wrap this up today. But it's interesting, when we were talking in my office, I mentioned that John Irvin is here. And John, this is Austin. Say hello to each other. I feel very small right now. There's a two tall dudes, right? So, but I said to Austin, did you see the film I Can Only Imagine? And he said, and he kind of teared up when I said it. So tell me why you teared up when I asked you that question.
I was just telling him that.
A little bit.
Yeah, I snuck out of your office after saying I knew I would be in ping pong and met him. The first movie that my fiance and I ever watched, the first time I ever held her hand, was in my hospital bed when we first met, and we watched I Can Only Imagine. I wasn't my choice to watch it. She picked. And to speak frankly, I said, "Oh, we don't want to watch it. Christian movies are kind of lame. I want to watch Carlile or Starship Troopers." But she said, "No, let's watch it." And we did, and it wasn't lame, and I enjoyed it. And
Your film was not lame, John. So we're done.
I wouldn't have said that up here if I thought it was.
So, John, we've been talking tonight about... Yeah, it is?
And congratulations. An amazing story.
He has an amazing story, and as you can see, this boy has some preacher blood in him too. I see it. Yeah. You have a message to share, and you're going to share it in a powerful way that only you can do it. And God's wired you with this amazing story that's uniquely yours, like we talked about tonight. We all have a story to tell. So, John, you're a storyteller. I mean, that's what you do for it's your passion.
Yeah,
and you also, you do it as a career with your films. And you've just wrapped up a new film about the life of Jeremy Camp called I Still Believe, that's going to be coming out soon. And then next we're going to be working on the film Jesus Revolution.
Right.
But tell us, as a filmmaker and a storyteller, kind of in the context of telling our story, what are the elements of a good story, and how can we maybe take some of those storytelling elements that we see in films and such, and great books, great literature, and apply them as we tell our own story?
Yeah, a movie, and I am honored to be a storyteller. It's my passion. It's also my job because of all of you. So thank you. My kids are going to go to college because you guys watch my story. Thanks. You're welcome. Thank you. On behalf of, seriously, I'm being very honest right now. Anyway, I have 4 kids. At least one of them now is going to go to college, and so if I keep watching the movies, we're going to keep looking at it. I think, what's interesting is that, and I won't go fully into it, but the human brain is literally wired for story. There's a lot of science behind that as a way to understand life's meaning, and it's incredible that God's wired us to discover truth and meaning through stories. And we say as a film is a new way to do a very old thing, which is to tell a story. And I'm a storyteller. We're serving the greatest storyteller of all time, And we each and every one have a story that matters. That doesn't have to be like anyone else's. And I think that the hard truth of it is, but there's also hope in it, that great stories, like you just see that movie about that guy that sort of lived a normal life and without any problems, that nothing really much happened. They didn't make that movie or write that book. Disney talked a lot about stories involving peril and pain. And I think one of the things that we lose sight of a lot of times is sometimes the most painful things that we walk through is God writing an incredibly unique, incredibly powerful story. And you don't know it when you're in the middle of it. And that story that he's writing for you that might involve difficult, stressful, painful things is going to give you a unique voice to a group of people that no one else can speak to. And I just think that learning that, I think it's so interesting that that there's just such a lack of emphasis and almost a dying emphasis on the idea of I guess evangelism would be the and yet we're the generation that has all the tools to get the gospel to the world, like more tools than any generation before us or all the other generations combined. And I think just one of the things that keep us from sharing the gospel is that we think it's more informational, we know all the answers, and really, I think it's engineered to just be story driven. And I think that we've forgotten that, man, it can be as simple as just showing up and sharing your story. This is what God's doing in my life, and He's real, and He's changing me from the inside out. He can do the same for you, and the simplicity of that. And so, yeah, I mean, a film, I make movies, I tell stories, and ultimately, I think Frank Capra said that the number one thing is to make me care, and you guys have done it so well tonight, but if there's anything that I would recommend, is take the audience there. Don't tell them about something, take them to the moment, describe it vividly, take me there, take me into your story. And I just think that there's never been a generation that's craving hope and meaning like this, at least in my lifetime, a time in my generation, I should say. And you just can't argue with the story. You can't argue with someone's experience. And so yeah, just share your story. It's just that simple sometimes.
Yeah. Let's thank John Irwin and
thank you.
What an amazing, it's all worked out. John just happened to be here tonight, and I was already going to interview Austin, so it just came together to really weave a really interesting service together. But we all want to look for those opportunities to share our story. But let me just close with this. Some of you are living your story, and you're in the before part, not the after part. Sometimes we call it before Christ and after Christ. That's how we divide human history. And you can also look at one's life that way. I remember my life before Christ and my life after Christ. And some of you are maybe in the before part. Maybe your story parallels Austin's story. Maybe you're thinking the things of this culture will satisfy you. Maybe you're dabbling in drugs. Maybe you're drinking and partying thinking that's where it's at. And it isn't. You just heard from a guy who's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Actually, he's been the t-shirt. Right? So he's lived it. And it's not there. So take it from him. Why do you have to go and learn it the hard way? You don't. And look how despondent people can become, even taking their own lives so tragically. Jesus is the answer. He was raised as a Christian, Austin, and he had a crisis in his life, and he turned against God, but ultimately he turned to the Lord. And, he has the hope that he'll see his mother again in heaven, because she was a believer. We have hope for the future as well. So in closing, I want to say, if you've never asked Jesus Christ to come into your life, you need to do that right now. Yeah. Because that's the ultimate story. The story of Jesus, who literally came on a rescue mission from heaven to planet Earth and was born as a helpless little baby in a manger and lived a perfect life and willingly laid his life down and died on a Roman cross and was beaten and whipped and nailed to that cross and bore all the sin of the world, your sin and mine. And then he rose again from the dead. And he's alive and he's here. And he's just waiting for you to ask him into your life. Austin knew the Lord was always there, but he had to call out to the Lord. The Bible says, call upon the name of the Lord and you'll be saved. He won't save you if you don't want to be saved. You can live the way you want to live, face the consequences of it, or you can turn to Jesus and be forgiven of all of your sin. So I want to close now by just giving you that opportunity. If you've not asked the Lord to forgive you, if you have that big hole in your heart that Austin was talking about, if you're not sure that you'll go to heaven when you die, that can happen for you right here, right now. So let's pray. Father, I pray for any person here, any person listening, watching, wherever they may be. If they don't know you yet, let this be the moment that they believe in Jesus and have their sin forgiven. Well, our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed, and we're praying. There might be someone here tonight that needs Jesus. Someone here that wants him to forgive them of their sin. And if that's you, I want you to just pray a simple prayer after me, wherever you are. This is a prayer where you're asking Christ to come into your life. So again, wherever you are, you want Christ to come into your life and fill that void. You want to go to heaven when you die. Pray this: Lord Jesus, I know I'm a sinner, but I know you're the Savior who died on the cross for me. I turn from my sin, and I choose to follow you from this moment forward. Be my Savior, be my Lord, be my God. Thank you for hearing this prayer and answering it. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God bless you. I commend you for saying that prayer. Let's all stand up. So we're going to close now in just a moment. And I'm going to say, for any of you that just prayed that prayer, if you'll kind of look where I'm pointing right now, to my left, your right, there's someone standing there. He has his own personal spotlight. Check that out. And he's holding up one of our New Believers Bibles. We want to give you one of those if you just prayed that prayer, and we want to help you to get started on the right foot as a follower of Jesus Christ. So any of you that prayed that prayer, we're going to say goodbye to you in just a moment. Make your way quickly over there, and don't leave without your own New Believers Bible. Let's pray one more time. Now, Lord, give us a boldness to share our story. Open up doors of opportunity. Help us to not be timid or afraid. Fill us with your Holy Spirit.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to leave this on the page for a little bit. This is Richard. Hey. Right now I gotta go off live because I'm gonna go hang out and meet and hang out with everybody. So I hope the story encouraged you, and thank you guys for being here with me. Thank you.